The only New York pizza dough recipe you will ever need. This was done in the Gozney Dome. You could use this pizza dough recipe in your OONI oven. Stick around and find out how we made this. What's going on YouTube? Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. It's the Pizza Guy John, and sometimes I crave a New York style pizza or a New York pizza, but being where I'm located at, we can't really get a good New York slice. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm attempting to make a New York slice using my ingredients here, also using my outdoor oven that I have. You could use an indoor oven, but I'm going to be using an outdoor oven. So the first step is you have to make your dough. So if you're making it this far, go ahead and give me a like, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you check out my other videos, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. So let's go and take a look at our ingredients here. So we have two different types of flour. We're basically just going to be doing a mix of flour. Here to my right, I have my 00 Caputo Pizzeria flour. That's a 00 flour here. Then here to my left, I have the same amount of flour. This is going to be a all-purpose flour. You could use a bread flour. You could also use any type of strong gluten, high protein flour, or you could just go all high protein flour. But like I said, I'm doing a mix. I got 153 grams here and 153 grams here. So both, again, is going to be the same. And I'm just going to really see if it's just going to give it more of a better flavor and a texture, because when you use bread flour, again, you're getting more bread from the crust. So I'm doing a little bit of mix and seeing if, again, I get a different flavor profile in that crust. Here I also have 8 grams of salt, 2 grams of yeast. So this is an active dry yeast. I'm going to be doing about 4 grams of oil, which again we'll put once we're mixing. And we have about 200 grams of water. So this will give us about 64 to 65% hydration dough, which again I believe is perfect for a New York style pizza. So let's go ahead and let's get our flour into our bowl here. You could use a mixer, but being that it's such a low amount of flour and a low amount of ingredients, I'm just going to be using my hands to mix. And so what we're doing here is we've got both of our flours mixed in there, and then we're just going to go with our yeast. We're going to go ahead and be putting our 2 grams of yeast. Because again, this is a long fermentation, slow fermentation, cold fermented dough. That's why we're using such a small amount of yeast. If we were wanting something we wanted within the next 24 to even 8 hours, you know, something really quick, then of course we're going to use more yeast. But again, this is a longer fermentation. We're using less yeast as well. So what we're going to do now, just kind of mixing both flours together, as well as getting that yeast incorporated as well into our flour here. And then now at this point, what I'm going to do is now I'm not going to pour all the water. I'll do about half of the water, and we'll get this mixed around. Get that also incorporated as well. Let's see, let's make sure we get all this in there. And this will make roughly 2 pizzas. So roughly around 300 gram pizzas for a good 14-inch pizza. So I'm just gonna kind of get that mixed in as well. Right. And what we'll do at this point is we'll add a little bit more water. So now that was half, we'll just do half of that. And it's gonna continue to get this mixed around. And again, if you have a mixer, you're just pouring the water in slowly and mixing it until it's fully incorporated. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead now and just take all this on. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add our salt in here. And now we're just going to go ahead and start mixing, and we're starting to get everything fully incorporated. together. And again, it is going to be shaggy only because, again, it is such a low amount of water. But here shortly we'll add some of the yeast. I'm sorry, some of the oil. And that, again, will help pulling it all together as well. So I'm going to go ahead and knead this just for a couple minutes, kind of get it all incorporated. I'll be back, and then we'll go ahead, and when we come back, we'll start getting that oil in there. All right, so we've been kneading this for just a minute. I've now placed it back onto my scale, tared it, so now we're just going to have a 0 reading. And like I said, we're doing about 4 grams of oil. So we're just going to kind of pour that on there. And there we go. So just a little bit, perfect. We got 4 there. We're gonna go ahead and get this turned off. Back to the side. And at this point, again, we're just gonna go ahead. I'm just gonna continue kneading this. As you can see, I still have just a little bit of water, but what we're gonna do is we're just kind of waiting, get this all mixed in when it's not as wet, and then we'll go ahead and get the rest of the water in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and knead this now. Again, if you have a mixture, just continue to knead it till it's roughly smooth and not wet looking. With your hand, you're kneading it maybe about 5 to 6 minutes or so. So give us a couple minutes and then we'll be back. All right, so we've been kneading this now for about good 4 or 5 minutes. As you can see, it is nicely, and it's getting a lot smoother. However, we still have a little bit of water to add. So this roughly less than 10% of water. We're gonna go ahead and just get that poured in there. And that's the rest of the 200 grams of water. And at this point, again, I'm just gonna go ahead and get this water incorporated. Sometimes what I like to do, especially if I'm kneading with hand, this kind of just helps the water get into the dough. Basically just like to squeeze it. And that kind of just helps it get in there. So we're gonna go ahead now, and we're just gonna knead this now. You can knead it in your bowl that you're using, or again, if you have a mixer, of course you could do it in there, or just on your table, whatever works perfectly. But at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and continue kneading this. When we come back, then we're basically gonna let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. We'll do that maybe 2 times or 1 time, just kind of depending if I feel like the dough needs to be, get a tighter glue in. After that, then we'll ball it, place it in the fridge, so we'll be back. All right, so we've been kneading now for a good, I'd say about 6 minutes or so. The dough is not fully smooth yet, but at this point, it's not sticky anymore. So what I wanna do is I'm gonna go ahead and let this sit at room temp, just kind of relax a little, let that gluten kind of come together and start building a little bit more. We'll let this rest about 15 minutes and then we'll come back. All right, so we are back now. The dough has been resting for about 15 minutes. Let's go ahead and take a look at this gluten. As you can see, I'm pulling it and it's not ripping, so that is a good sign. So what we're gonna do now at this point, I'm just gonna kind of get this pulled again. The dough feels nice and soft. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get this pulled tight. So what we're gonna do, because I want one pizza that is roughly 300 grams. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get out my bowl here, just a round bowl. You can use a plate, whatever you have. It has some oil in there, so that way the dough doesn't stick. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put this in here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weigh this out about 300 grams. So let's put that in there. So again, 512. I have my dough cutter here, and so like I said, I want about 300 grams, so I'm gonna cut off about that. 430, so it's still pretty big. 382, still pretty big. So cut a lot off of that. 300. So about 290. 303, that's fine. So then I'm gonna go ahead, so this is gonna be my one bowl for my big 312 or 300 gram dough ball. And what I'm doing is I'm just pulling it all in to get the top tight. And I'm just gonna close that off just by spinning that around in my hand. Seal that off nicely. All right, and now I'm gonna go ahead and put that in a bowl here. I'm gonna get that covered up, and then like I said, at this point, once it's covered up, then we're gonna place it in the fridge for 48 hours. So we'll see you back in 2 days. All right, YouTube, we're back. It's 48 hours now. As you can see, I have my 2 dough balls out. They are fully fermented. As you can see, it's all the way towards the lid of this container here. I put it out 1 hour before I want to start making my pizzas. You want to get it to room temp, but you don't want it to be super warm, because then as you can see, it does kind of start getting some extra bubbles, air starts coming out. So depending on your room temp, again, that's going to be up to you. But again, 1 hour before. It's a little warm here today, so 1 hour. Sometimes you could do 2. Again, it just all depends your room temp. It's about 73, 74 degrees Fahrenheit in here, so that is perfect. So let's go ahead and let's get this open. I'm going to carefully open this, make sure that I'm not tearing it or anything like that. And right away, it smells really good. It smells sweet. It has almost like a sourdough smell to it, so pretty fermented. So at this point, it's ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and dump this into my semolina and just kind of get some on the top as well. And it's oiled, so it should be popping out pretty easily, and I could feel it coming out right there. So that is good. Just going to get some semolina on top and basically just kind of really coat that a lot, actually. All right, and we're just gonna get some semolina here. And so again, this should be making roughly 14-inch pizza. So I have my 14-inch pill here. We're gonna be doing half and half. So I have some shredded mozzarella cheese here that I did shred myself. You don't want to get the bag of mozzarella shredded already, because it has some sort of like chemical agent on there, and it tends to burn in the oven pretty quick. So if you get a block of cheese, go ahead and get that shredded, or fresh shredded cheese. I got some tomato sauce here, the Bianco di Napoli, some Parmesan. I got pepperoni, of course, and some dried oregano. So like I said, I'm going to do a half and half pizza, half cheese, half pepperoni, because of course that's what they eat a lot in New York, or New York style pizza. So let's go ahead and let's start getting this stretched out. So let's kind of get this little round, and you could hear that air. Sounds really nice. Get that flipped around, get some more semolina. And again, I'm putting a lot only because it is pretty soft. So let's go ahead, and again, if this is something you like, subscribe to my channel, turn on that bell notification to be notified when I do make new videos. Comment down below, what type of videos do you want to see? So you could hear the air in this dough. And I'm just kind of stretching it, making sure that I'm building that crust. I'll probably do this one more time. As you can see, I do have a nice little thin crust around here. The dough feels nice to the touch, so I'm happy about that. Nice and soft. We got a nice crust around here. And I think we should be good. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead now. I'm gonna stretch into my hands, and it feels nice. Just listen to that. Sounds nice. Smells good, like I said. I'll go ahead and get my pill, and again, this is a 14-inch pill. So if you have something similar, then of course that's what you want to use for something like this, because like as you can see, it does make a pretty big pizza. So I'm gonna get that. Go ahead now in the sauce. Usually with the 12-inch pizza, I do about a ladle. I'm gonna do a ladle and a half on this one. And we're gonna go all the way to the end, making sure we're not touching too much of that crust, but we're getting pretty close to the edge. All right. And at this point, we'll go and we'll get down some Parmesan. I'm gonna do a pretty heavy amount. And again, I also grated that. We're gonna do some oregano, dried oregano on the full pizza. All right. And this is about 130 grams of cheese. So again, that's just gonna be kind of up to you on how much cheese you want, but I think for this size of pizza, I think 130 grams is going to be perfect. But again, you just wanna kind of get it all the way around. You know, it's fine that you do see a little bit of the sauce, that is okay. And like I said, we're just gonna do half of it, pepperoni. So I'm gonna kind of draw a little line here, and I'm just gonna get this round. And so to do a half, of course, you just go ahead and you just go down the middle, or half of the pizza here. And this is just a mixture of pepperonis that I had. I did have some leftover pieces of 2 different kinds, so that's why some you do see that are bigger, some that are going to be smaller, but that's okay. All right, so now that we have that, then of course if you wanted to, you could also do a little bit more Parmesan as well. And we're just making sure that we have a nice and round pizza. And we're gonna be going into the Gozney Dome. The dome has been on now for about 40, well, about close to an hour actually.
Inside lane, missing exits, glued to the pavement. Between the lines, I'll keep my gaze straight ahead as the last stop flies by.
And again, we are going straight into the oven. Now we're pulling that all the way through. And I'm gonna go ahead and just get this turned down. Again, you kind of want it to have a low and slow cook. So I'm gonna get that a little bit closer. So it's looking nice already. The crust is building nice. And again, this is a pretty simple recipe that anyone could do. As you can see, it's fairly simple. Day 1 making the dough, and then 2 days into the fridge. So again, it's a really easy, nice and good dough. All right, so we're gonna go ahead now and get this spun around. And that's the best about this oven, is that we're able to get a nice pizza in here. So we're letting that bottom set just a little bit longer here. Gonna get that heated up. All right. And again, we're just cooking that crust, making sure that we're cooking it all the way around. All right, so I think we are looking pretty good here. Let's go ahead. And I do feel, fortunately, there is a little rip here on this pizza, but other than that, it's looking pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and get this inside now. And let it sit onto the cooling rack. As you can see, this is a pretty big pizza. So I got my cooling rack here. Let's go ahead and get that on there. All right, so as you can see, here is the pizza. It looks really, really nice and crispy crust all the way around. Let's go ahead and get a little bit more Parmesan. Again, you could never go wrong with too much Parmesan, especially some, good Parmesan. It brings out some good flavors. And so we're just gonna go ahead now. Like I said, we finish that off a little bit. I'm gonna let this cool down, as you wanna take a look at this looking nice and crispy. Crust is looking nice. So if you like this and you made it this far, give this video a thumbs up, and we'll be back shortly. All right, so here is your pizza. Again, this was the New York pizza dough recipe. Again, possibly the only dough recipe you may ever need in your life. nice and crispy crust. You can see it is cooked all the way around. Pizza's looking good. Let's go ahead and take a look at this bottom here. Bottom is cooked. Look at how nice and cooked all the way around that is. Let's go ahead and let's get a cut. As you can see, this it's fitting, it's over the plate. Let's go ahead and actually get a measure. So we are looking about 14 inches there and about 13 there. So it's a good 14-inch pizza. Let's go ahead and we're gonna cut down right in the middle. Actually gonna cut here nice and crispy. I'm gonna go ahead, again, it's over the plate, so I'm gonna have to cut it like this. You can hear how nice and crispy that is. And I'm gonna do a pepperoni because, well, you know, we all love some pepperoni. And so I'm just gonna get that cut. Right. All right, so here is your pepperoni slice. As you can see, again, cooked all the way around, and it's not a New York pizza without folding it, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that folded, and let's get a bite. Let's go. Let's go and take a bite of this crust. So that crust is nice, it's soft, it's crispy, almost super delicate, like it just melts in your mouth. This again is the New York pizza dough recipe. Like this video, comment down below what you liked about this video. Check out my other videos, turn on that bell notification to be notified when I do make new videos. Check out my Instagram at the Pizza Guy John. Let's connect there and we'll talk soon.